much. So on to the next slide, which is the agenda. So here you can see for everybody that this is the times that we're trying to keep to today. So Katrina shortly will go through the background, and then we'll have lived experiences. There is opportunity for a break partway through at around 11:30, so that everybody can get a comfort break and a break from the screen. And then we'll have further discussions going on through the session. I will try and keep everybody to time, so that I know your time is precious, and some of you are doing this on your days off or in between slots, so the demands on you are many. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Katrina, and she'll give you some background to this. Thank you, Katrina.
Thank you, Shusha, and morning everyone. So my name's Katrina. I use the pronoun she, her, and yeah, I work as part of the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion team within the Workforce Directorate at CUH. So Shusha and Ruby have asked me just to give a very brief overview of some of the data that's prompted this webinar, I guess, and some of the kind of context and background why this webinar has had its base. So you might know something called the Workforce Race Content. Don't worry, you're not. That might be completely new to you. It's a standard that we have to report on within the trust. It compares the experience of staff who are from a black, Asian, or ethnic minority background with the experience of white staff in the organisation across a number of indicators. And alongside that, has some doing this. So what I wanted to share a couple of the indicators with you that have prompted some discussions with the various staff network, with Ruby, Shusha, and led to this webinar. So you can see from the slide that in terms of how many staff there are at CUH, more than 1 in 4 of our staff come from a black, Asian, or ethnic minority background. So that's a lot. It's a lot of people. But what we do know is that AIM staff are particularly underrepresented at the higher bands. So at band 5, you can see that 40% of staff are from an ethnic minority background. But as you progress through the pay bands, so for example, at band 6, that drops to 23%. Band 7 and band 8 is now to 11%. And a similar pattern right with more senior bands, so 10% from the age of 80. So what that tells us is we've got a really diverse workforce in terms of ethnicity, but that we don't necessarily have the right representation of all of the different seniorities. So we know that people from ethnic minority backgrounds are not necessarily progressing into the more senior roles. So that looks at the numbers a little bit, and then let me next slide. So I'm jumping your faces and my slides on screen is why I'm a bit not quite sure what I'm looking at. So just a couple of other bits of data that support why this is taking place. We, again, as part of the Workforce Race Content, we look at how likely people are to be appointed once they've been shortlisted. So we've met the essential criteria for a post, have been shortlisted, and then how likely people are to be appointed from that. So our data tells us that if you're white, you're 1.48 times more likely to be appointed after being shortlisted than if you're from an ethnic minority background. Obviously, there's a gap we don't want to see at all. And if we look at our most recent staff survey results, these ones for this year, which have not yet been released, but we can share little snippets of them with you, and they'll be released in the month. Just 48% of staff from an ethnic minority background believe that there are equal opportunities for career progression and promotion, and if you compare that to one staff, that's 61%. So you can see there's quite a big difference there in terms of how people feel about whether there are equal opportunities for career progression. What's positive is that there's no particular difference in the numbers of ethnic minority staff compared to non-military training. So the accessibility and discipline is pretty much equal, which is good. So that's the kind of context of the picture. That's not to say everything's terrible, because there's a lot of things done already. Some of these are moving in the right direction. So while there are skills and gaps, there's some very positive things taking place. So you might be aware, for example, of the diversity and inclusion panelists program. We now have 40 diversity and inclusion panelists who are trained to be on recruitment panels for roles that are 8 and above, to make sure that we have some diversity on those interview panels, so it's not an all-white panel or an all-female panel, for example. And as you're also really keen to support all of you in your career development to look at what the barriers are for that progression and moving those. So really pleased that the Bone Network and Ruby in particular are hosting this webinar. Thank you, Ruby, for all the hard work you put into getting us to this stage for staff across Ruby. I'm really looking forward to explore with you through the day. So I hope that's a helpful bit of background, and I will hand back to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's really good to understand, and I think it does quite clearly show why webinars like this are so important, because we want to address that imbalance and support people going forward, and try and get that much more in a balanced picture and a proportional representation in all of those staff roles you outlined earlier. So thank you for that. So the next point we have on our agenda is Shinto and Charlotte have very kindly agreed to share some of their experiences, and I do appreciate that some of this might be difficult to hear. Some of these things you may have experienced yourself and may stir up emotions in you, so we do really appreciate the honesty in which Charlotte and Shinto are going to share with us. Charlotte.
Yes, hello everybody.
Hello Charlotte.
Hello. Sorry, I was a little bit late. I was having clinic, so I just wanted to say a huge thank you to Shinto sharing her lived experience with us. It's not easy. I'm going to share with you some other experience of mine, and I try not to be emotional because I wouldn't carry on if I just started to be emotional. So I'm just going to explain a specific experience that I have during my time at Cambridge University Hospital, Rosie Maternity. So in background, I am a midwife from Middle East, from Iran. I'm Persian. When I arrived to the UK in 2000, it took a while to find out how I can start working as a midwife, because I was already an experienced midwife back in my country. And I thought the only way it would be, as Shinto said, back home, if you have got higher education, you automatically going higher grade, and the pay and everything is going up. But it's not the case here. And I didn't know anything about the registration back in old days. I don't know if any of you remember, we had UKCC here, and I didn't know how to be registered as a midwife. How silly is that? You need to be registered, work as a midwife or nurse in the UK. I didn't know that, so I started to do my study midwifery education in master degree, which was very difficult with the English language. My children are still there telling me I cannot speak English, but back 20 years ago, you can imagine how bad was my English language. But anyway, I managed to do that. And during my master degree, I found out there is Cambridge University Hospital that they are accepting midwives that they don't have any experience in the UK. So I applied, and I registered. It was different from now international midwives. They registered me based on my documentation. There wasn't any language certificate back in 2002. But there was a course that I passed the course successfully, and then because of my experience as a midwife, they gave me higher grade. It was like ABC. I was F grade back then, higher grade because of my experience. But it didn't mean I was feeling comfortable. There is some relationship with service user. There is some relationship with your colleagues that I wasn't aware of that. The technical things as a midwife, it was easy. I didn't know how to progress in my career development. I didn't know how to where to go. And I was the first midwife at the Rose with master degree since then, and nobody had it back then in midwifery. So, but I stuck, and I didn't know how to progress my career. So I said my first lived experience was when we had a Christmas party. Not Christmas party, we were working as Christmas as normal. I was new, so I was working every single Christmas and holidays because I wanted to help as well. And I didn't celebrate Christmas back then, but we do it now. And there was food in the rooms, in postnatal ward, everybody's going and eating and celebrating and having a laugh. And that was me left working really hard with the whole food board and ward. And the end of the middle of the when they finished that, they asked me to go and eat from their leftover when they were having food, Christmas food, and chocolates and puddings and all these good things that we do have in Christmas. And it was really hit me because I was keep saying to myself, I am a human being. Why they, my colleague treated me like, I am nothing. I'm not going to eat from the leftover. But that was my first lived experience. Since then, my colleagues, a couple of my colleagues, they are present here and they know me. They were really, really nice and supportive. I had beautiful experience. But recently, I just wanted to share my recent lived experience when they were giving everybody in CUH their star, COVID star, because everybody worked really, really hard, and everybody deserved to be, to give this a star because of the situation that we have been through during the pandemic. And I see we have difficult situation, some of us more than the others based on where we work. But I'm sure most of you have gone there and they are very there. And it is very recent. I'm very, very they are member of the board. And I wasn't expecting some of them telling me when I say hello, they telling me, oh, where are these accents coming from? And I just felt again another time after all these years, still this culture hitting me. It shouldn't affect me at all, but it did. So I just wanted to explain and share that with you. No matter the situation, the position that you are, how many years working in our workplace, still we need to be very careful the way that we are talking to our colleagues. And it was, I'm not putting the star on my uniform at all, because it just reminded me that when I went there with lots of hope to receive as anybody else, I've been hit down that I am different from the others. So that's one of the the recent experience that I wanted to share with you. But we need to look forward. We need to appreciate the opportunity that's been given to us, especially at Cambridge, at Rosie, at Addenbrooke's to us, because you can see I was somebody who didn't know where to go for career progression. Now I am consultant midwife. But the way that I choose and get through the situation and the position that I am, it was very, very difficult, hard way. And I don't want any of you or anybody to have the experience and rejections and disappointments, all of that I have experienced. Since I joined to the BAME network, my career life has changed dramatically. During the pandemic, when I was hearing Monica was saying about the Indian colleagues, they need to go to India, they need to be with their family, we need to support them. They go there because their family need them, they need to have care by their family loved one, and we need to support them. And I remember, oh my goodness, that is so amazing. We are talking about nobody should come from India because of the COVID. It was a very, very severe, very dangerous variant in there. But I saw, member of, Monica was supporting. It was completely, changed my way of thinking. And also, we have got Juja here. She's been working with me. She's been supporting and helping and spending time. She has got big, huge responsibility. Anytime I went and asked for help, how can I get the, how can I be successful in my career development? She spent time for me. Whether it was in her office, it's very, very tiny little office, that's a surprise, or whether it was, online, by Zoom. So that's why I just wanted to share it with you. Don't be shy when it comes to your career development. You will be surprised how many times I failed my, it was unsuccessful interview. And when I looked back and reviewed the questions and the way that was answering, I'm just saying, yeah, that was good. They didn't give me that opportunity because I wasn't ready back then. I was not ready. But when I am ready, with the help of my colleague, even my head of midwifery pushed me really, really nicely. She was saying, this opportunity coming to East of England, I'm sure you will be really, really good. I will be devastated if you go there and we lose you, but I'm thinking of your career development. So I never seen these caring people around me before. Where this BAME network was, why didn't I know anything about it before? I should have done it 10 years ago. But it's okay, it's fine. Now with the help of all my colleagues, my beloved colleagues around me, help of my network, help of my line manager, head of midwifery, head of the resources, everybody. So this is a very nice culture, and I think we are very lucky to be in CUH because, as I said, every single member of the BAME, they are thinking amazingly out of the box. And they are here to help. And I myself, if any of you or any of your friends and colleagues, they want to get help for the, how to go through the pathway, the successful pathway, I am here to help them because I know where are the gaps. For example, I trained somewhere else. Although I've been here in the UK, I'm working in the CUH for so many years, but still I didn't know till just couple of recent years. And this is what I wanted to share with you. And I hope what other things that I wanted to tell you. Every unsuccessful interview, I was very upset for 24 hours, sometimes for a week. I was crying. I just wanted to share that with you. I never said that to anybody. The person who get the job, and I was really keen to have it, when I saw her first time, it was so painful for me. It was so painful. And then later on, it wasn't that painful at all. And it helped me. And then I was telling to myself, this is the last time. I'm not going to be successful. They don't want me. I don't know what to do. And I just carry on like I am, band 7 on, I mean, it is very different from midwives and nurse perspective. And I'm not going to improve my career at all. But again, when I had my moment and I decided, no, I need to try again with the help of everybody around me. So that was my story of the successful career.
And Charlotte, you mentioned how you started off, at what band you were. Would you just like to sort of update people on the latest achievement?
Yes, I am like, dinosaur ancient here. So back in the old days, we didn't have like band 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We were starting from F, and then D was equivalent with band 7, and A, B, C, D, and we had E as well. So, and then we had Agenda for Change. So after Agenda for Change, they have changed these banding, and now we are having numbers. So we are starting as midwife, and I'm sure the nurses as well, band 5 first, newly qualified. As a midwife, we have got 1 year, sometimes a little bit more than 1.5 years to become band 6. So all of the midwives, if a midwife's here for 2 years is still band 5, we will support her to become band 6. But I think in nursing is different. You can be band 5 for, you know, many years that you would like to be. Is that right? So and now I am, you know, when I was at grade, my colleagues coordinator said, just keep asking me to be coordinator, you need to go higher, and I did, and it was fine. And then I stuck, and I couldn't go further up. Now I am band 8B, which is really amazing, and I hope every single of you, thank you, with lots of help and support. It didn't come, you know. I feel I've been through, forgetting the way that I am, I've been through a very difficult university course. You know, the amount of the study that I took, the courses that I took, leadership courses, cultural ambassador course that Jujo and Monica supported me to go through. That it helped me a lot, and going through all of the process of the interviews and the question and techniques. I was doing lots of courses. It didn't help, but you know, all of a sudden, after I joined to the BAME network and gone through a couple of trainings from the BAME network, it just clicked, and that was the gap in my education. And that helped me more than anything else.
Thank you, Sharla. Really powerful story there that takes you across 20 years of a career here at CUH, and those difficult years. And I'm sure, you know, that when you first came to the UK, that there were lots of challenges going on outside of the workplace as well, as you adjust to a different environment. And very often we forget that you know, it's the whole thing, isn't it? It's, you know, just making your way into a supermarket and you know, knowing, you know, all the things that happen in the UK. All of that, you know, impacts on you as an individual, not just in the workplace, is it? Because it's the home life, and outside of that, and your social life, everything is challenged. So really grateful that you've shared your story with us today. Katrina in a minute is going to just give some support and signposting to people, but I just wondered right now, having heard those stories, whether we had any questions that you would like to put or like to ask, or advice that you'd like to ask of Sharla. I don't know whether Shinto's still with us. I know his camera's off. So has anybody got any questions that you would like to ask, and then we can unmute you to ask your question.
I've got a question. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure where.
It's Krista. I'm probably somewhere down. I missed everyone was here. Oh, I can't hear you. Can I go ahead and ask my question?
Yes, you can. Sorry, I've put myself on mute.
No, that's okay.
Go ahead, Krista. Thank you.
Thanks. I think this question is going to be geared more towards Sharla in terms of the current job that we do. So I'm a midwife as well. So the question I was going to ask is, you mentioned the pathway that you kind of had to go through, Sharla. What did that look like? So at what point did you kind of do a degree? At what point were you coordinating? And at those various points, did you kind of feel like there was some leadership support when you were doing those coordinating stuff that would help you for those shifts, so you felt confident when doing that rather than being thrown into the deep end? And then once you felt like, okay, I feel like I need to move on to something else, did you feel that you could do that quite easily in terms of with the education you already had, because you already did your master's, you were coordinating midwife, or did you have to do other things along the way, and what were they?
Yes, thank you. I think it's very, very a valuable question. You need to, you know, my advice would be, it wasn't easy at all, you know, it wasn't easy at all to find out what I want in the first place. Okay, so my advice would be to you, what do you want? Do you want to be a specialist nurse in some aspects of your career? For example, if you want to be a specialist nurse in diabetes, so obviously you need to go and search what kind of the qualification is required to be, for example, consultant nurse in diabetes. Okay. For me, because I was already very experienced midwife and I started, and it wasn't enough to be just a coordinator. I wanted more. I wanted to make big changes. I wanted to be the best midwife I can be. Supporting newly qualified, yes, that is amazing. That is fine. But I wanted to make changes. I wanted to bring some initiative. So that's why I've been awarded by the Dunkley Civil Award. You know, everybody knows that. Thank you. That was one of the desire that I wanted to make changes for our service users, the outcome. But when the consultant midwife came to the picture, I looked at you need to have experience and portfolio in research. You need to have experience and portfolio in teaching and training. You need to have experience and portfolio in clinical. You need to be clinical expert. So all of that, I tried really hard. In terms of the research, I'm quality improvement for a research project from RCOG, Royal College of Gynecology and Obstetrics and Gynecology. And also I am advisor for 2 PhD students abroad in Iran. So I am their advisor, and also in bring some initiative, I am advisor. I'm helping in Spain, in one of the cities in Catalonia, in Barcelona, to make the stand-alone birth center for themselves. So all of that, they are huge, they are big, but this is coming to the consultant midwife. If you would like to be sonographer, for example, midwife sonographer, so there are different pathways. So this is always my advice when I talk to newly qualified midwives or even international midwives coming in now. I'm just telling them very, very easily, do you want to be head of midwifery, or do you want to be university lecturer? Do you want to be Jackie Dunkley Bent? Do you want, yes, or do you want, whatever. You need to find out what would you like to be first, heart in heart, not because, consultant midwife is fancy, the band is high and it's fancy and it is really nice, I would like to be that. No, you really, really, heart and mind, all of that needs to want it. And then we are here to help you to get through that and, be successful. It takes time, it takes courage, it takes hard working, studying, and, working above and beyond. How many times we work, after we finish our shift, because it was good and it was necessary for our personal knowledge and skills and improvement. It wasn't easy, but I knew from the beginning what I wanted to be. So that was helpful, but I just didn't know how to get there. And it took me more than 20 years to get there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte. I think we might have time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions.
Can I ask a question to Shinto, please?
Yeah, go ahead, Ruby.
Shinto, when you apply for the Stepping Up program, what are your challenges, and what will be your advice to our colleagues who wanted to do the same? Because obviously, we are in a very, we still haven't been out of pandemic, but also currently, I think it's paused, isn't it, Monica? The Stepping Up leadership program, I think it's currently paused.
It's paused at the moment. We're waiting for Cambridgeshire and Peterborough to reintroduce the locally delivered Stepping Up programme with the Leadership Academy, because the national programme was so popular and oversubscribed that there was a huge waiting list. So 2 years ago, pre the pandemic, we had Cambridge and Peterborough CTG commissioned a local one. But I will let colleagues know when a locally delivered one is. But yeah, it's very popular.
Yeah, thank you. So Shinto, my question is, what were your challenges in getting that? Because obviously it's not only a 1-day program, it's kind of like, it's a course. I think it's a 5-day, wasn't it? And it's external. And so what will be your advice for our colleagues who wanted to do the same, to follow that path?
Yeah, sure. Sorry about my
No.
presentation before. I bottled that up, didn't I? Yeah, in terms of the Stepping Up program, I saw an advertisement from the CUH daily email, and once I applied for it, I had to get the permission from my manager. So I spoke to my line manager, and it was very straightforward. It was just a matter of sorting the roster out and going down there. And yeah, I would advise every single of you, going down there and have that experience. If you get a chance, it's really good. It's rejuvenating. It's very inspiring. You get a feeling that you are not your own in this battle. You get to hear a lot of similar stories, and some positive stories, some negative stories, and from the positive stories, you could hear that how they tackled all those things, and it's just a life turner for me, I would say.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's great. Thank you for answering that for us. Really helpful. Are there any more questions for either Shinto or Shala? I'm just checking the other screen. Okay, it doesn't appear to be, but obviously you can still use the chat box. And I think Rosalind's put a message in there that you can also contact your local university for careers guidance. But if you are able to stay with us, we later on in this session, we've got Gary Parlett, who's from the CUH education team, and hopefully he'll be able to share some light on route accesses to career development as well for everyone. So we'll look forward to that later in the session. Catriona, can I just come back to you? You were going to, because there was some emotional, both of those stories are very thought-provoking and very emotional. So what support have we got at the Trust for anybody being challenged?
Thanks, Shuja, and thanks so much, Charlotte and Shinto, for sharing your story so powerfully. And we know there's some emotion in that, and that might have triggered particular emotions in people who are with us today. So just wanted to highlight some of the support available. I think Charlotte's highlighted lots of it actually in terms of people in this room, the people you've heard speak, I'm sure would love to talk things through with you if you would find that helpful. The BAME network is a brilliant source of support. Charlotte's talked quite a lot about how valuable she has found the support from the BAME network, so do get in touch with them or get involved if you think that would be helpful. Myself, Monica, Zhuja, as people within the workforce team are always happy to have a conversation to talk things through if that would be helpful. And of course there's the wider staff support as well available to CUH, which I'll put a link in the chat in a minute to all of the different kind of emotional and well-being and psychological support that's available. So if you want to talk that through in a slightly more formal way, or maybe a more anonymous way with somebody you don't know, but just want to talk some of that through, then there's various different options for that kind of support, and I'll put a link in the chat in a minute. Monica, Zhuja, Ruby, have I missed anything that you think we should highlight to people about sources of support?
I think you go on, Monica.
I just say you've captured it. Yes, thanks, Katrina.
Yeah, absolutely. And as Katrina said, that we are all here for you, and we've also got the more formal routes, which is counselling, psychology support through occupational health as well, if you need something more. Because some of these experiences are traumatic, as we know, but the great thing to hear that's come across today is from both Shinto and Shala so far is the success So the determination and the you know, that pushing through has brought them both success. And as Shinto said earlier on, it's then trailblazing for others to come through who hopefully will find that journey less of an obstacle because of what you've done. So thank you both for sharing, and there may well be further questions that come up, so we'll keep an eye on the chat box and see how the session progresses. So I'm going to now introduce, probably we could do with the slides back up, Katrina. I think we might be on slide 7. There we go. So the next session that we've got lined up for you is with Ruth Burry, and you've seen her on the screen. She's been here with us all along, which is fantastic. And as you can see there from Ruth's title, Professional Lead of Learning and Development in the RCN Eastern region and Western, I understand. And I'm sure she can tell you much more about that. And so this session is going to be interactive. So there are going to be lots of opportunities to have smaller groups and therefore get involved in those conversations, which is going to be really great for all of us. So without further ado, I will hand over to you, Ruth. Thank you.
Excuse me. Thank you, Zsuzsa. First of all, I'd just like to apologise for my croaky voice and for the fact that I'm nursing a cold, but I'm here. I'm very delighted to be here. I'm really grateful for the invitation from Ruby and Zsuzsa to support this event. I'm really struck by the opening, the beginning of this event that we've had. Some really excellent and powerful reflections and life experiences. So thank you to Shala and Shinto for sharing those. And I'm taking away some really key and important themes from your 2 stories, which are about that invisibility and the rejection, but also about commitment and about leadership development and about seeking avenues for support, and really crucially about extending the ladder behind you and on your career journey. So it's about supporting people, supporting others in that ongoing way. So thank you for that. Before, my slides have disappeared off the screen. So if I ask Katrina to put my slide on the screen, thank you. And while that's coming out, I'm really just going to tell you briefly about a little bit about me. So as Zsuzsa said, my role is Professional Lead Learning and Development at the Royal College of Nursing. I'm a registered nurse. I've been qualified for quite some time. I'm the child of immigrant parents who came over from Jamaica in the 1960s with a very, very strong ethic around working hard, and in fact, sometimes having to work more than twice as hard as, you know, white counterparts and other people to make any headway. We as a family did see a lot of racism and experienced a lot of inequality as we were growing up and at school, and I know my parents experienced much more inequality than they would ever kind of dare share with us. They went through some extreme hardships, and I know some of these stories will resonate with people on the call this morning. In terms of my career, I followed my big sister, who's a mental health, she's a dementia specialist nurse. She's an admiral nurse, for those of you who know about that role. So my sister, my auntie, my cousin, and others in the family who are doctors and nurses. I have a niece who's training to be a physician associate in Manchester at the moment. So there is a little bit of kind of health service and nursing in the blood, as it were. I trained in London and I specialised in neurosurgical critical care for many years, which I still love with a passion that I cannot express. I absolutely adore neurosurgical nursing. I took six months out from nursing to travel the world with some friends, which was a really fantastic thing to have done with my life. I learned so much, saw so much, and it was really good for my kind of personal and professional growth. And when I came back, I didn't find it difficult to go back into nursing. There were so many vacancies all over the place. And I was able to actually go back into neuro nursing and did some more critical care and some rehab. my love of practice development and education led me to follow that route, and I got, after a little time, got a senior nurse practice development role, and then went into education within an NHS trust and got the head of nurse education post within that trust. And we were working very, very closely with the universities, but I was NHS trust based. Excuse me. On my journey to, I worked my way up to a band 8 when I was in the NHS, and I didn't see many people that looked like me on that journey. We were few and far between, but we certainly connected with one another. Those of us that were working at, you know, different levels, we formed really somewhat of an informal network. I funded a lot of my development, so I've got a first degree and a master's and a postgrad diploma, and I'm a registered practice educator. So I funded a lot of that myself, but I did get some study leave time and a little bit of a budget towards the latter end of some of those studies. But I did have to, it was a little bit of a battle, really, to put it mildly. What I would say about my journey, just in kind of conclusion in this part, and around in terms of my thought for you, would be to seek out your networks, so make those connections, make some really strong friendships, support the people that are coming through behind you, and don't give up. Know where to go for your support, but don't give up. Remain steadfast, because you are as deserving as anyone else to achieve what you seek to achieve for your career and your personal and professional development. So that's my message. So just on that first slide there on the screen, so we've already had quite a lot of reflection on the current context for healthcare. We have so much to think about. I don't think nursing, midwifery, healthcare have been as challenging, certainly not in my lifetime, as they are right now. We've had different challenges, but we've not had these types of challenges in this context. So we have a lot to think about. The experience of the pandemic has really uncovered a lot of pre-existing inequalities, and they've really given some momentum to us doing things differently. So I'm trying to take away a positive out of the negative, which is the pandemic, in terms of that momentum for us to do things differently. We still have a way to go around discrimination and racism and being truly anti-racist. There's loads of learning from the incidents that led to the Black Lives Matter movement and subsequent to that. So those are still ongoing. There's a huge sustainability agenda. There's a cost of living crisis. There's a whole kind of pandemic and COVID recovery and what that means. And then there's a whole thing around keeping well, looking after your mental wellness and looking after your well-being. So there's lots within this context. What we're going to do in the time that we have together is I'm going to provide you with the space to do some reflection on some of your achievements, because all of you will have achieved many, many good things, and then also to focus on some of your development goals. And I'll signpost you to some tools that will hopefully support you to be very action focused around that aspiration that you're working towards. Could I have the next slide, please, Katrina? Okay, so what do we mean by career development? So what we are talking about is evolving, so different things. So one thing can mean evolving in your current role. So there's nothing wrong with staying in the role that you're in, so long as you feel like you're continuing to develop, you're contributing, you're contributing to improving practice within the service and the team that you work. So it's really important to feel like you're evolving rather than to stagnate. And for those of us who are on the NMC register, it is a professional requirement that we demonstrate that we are continuously improving our practice, you know, through our reflections and so on. So evolving, regardless of whether or not you stay in your current role, is really important. Career development is also about making decisions about your long-term learning and development. So it's about being purposeful, and I certainly heard Shala and Shinto speak about this. It's about being purposeful about what you see as your direction of travel, and seeking out those opportunities. You know, we know that the context is an unequal context, and it's not always a level playing field for accessing support. But actually, there's something about doing what you can to seek out your pathway and looking to those who have gone before you and those on this call and elsewhere who have offered this and continue to offer their support to you. And it's also about fulfilling your career advancement aspirations. So when I was a student nurse, as soon as I did a neurosurgical placement, I knew that I wanted to be a neurosurgical nurse. As soon as I got the job on the neurosurgical ward, I knew that I wanted to do the specialist qualification for nurses in neuroscience nursing. So I did that. I knew where I wanted to do it. So I did it at the National Centre in London. I knew that I wanted to be a sister. So I sought that out, looked for support and got that also. I knew that I wanted to have a first degree and a master's, and I strove towards those and eventually got those milestones as well. So it is about seeking those opportunities, but also looking to challenge those barriers that you see around you and using whatever support you can to get that done. So some of the barriers, as I was listed there, around career development in our current context are around lack of recognition of CPD opportunities. So one of the things that revalidation enables us to do is to use CPD in a variety of ways. So there are a whole range of different things that can count as CPD. Every learning opportunity really can count as your CPD as long as you reflect on it and demonstrate the value of the learning from that CPD opportunity. And in terms of revalidation, you align it against one of the pillars, one or more of the pillars of the NMC code. So there are lots of CPD opportunities. So it's about recognizing when you are learning, not thinking, oh, I need to go to a university, or I need to be in a classroom, or I need to be on a program. Yes, that certainly can be helpful, but it's also about those everyday things as well. We know that Black and minority ethnic colleagues experience inequality and inequity of access to opportunity. It was great to see the stats that Katrina shared at the beginning in terms of actually that parity across Black and minority ethnic staff and white staff in terms of accessing CPD at Cambridge University Hospital. That was really encouraging. Other barriers, of course, are to do with staffing. You know, there just are not enough nurses and midwives, full stop. And some of the capacity issues and the way that services change and the way we've had to flex up, down, sideways to manage the pandemics and the coming out of the pandemic scenario. There are funding issues and issues around access and opportunity. There's probably more that can be done around raising awareness of the opportunities that do exist. So there are opportunities within your organisation and outside of those. And also sometimes you don't get the support that you need. But actually what today is about doing some of that signposting and encouraging you to learn from the journey that others have taken. Can I have the next slide, please? Excuse me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, in a moment, ask Katrina to split you up into groups of, if there are enough of us on the call, Katrina, if people can be in groups of 5, and you are going to do a little piece of work, and I'll give you somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes. I'm just checking the clock, see how much time we've got left. So what you're going to do, when you just have some reflection space to think about a career aspiration that you have. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you are wanting to look for another role or go up the career ladder. It might mean that, and it's great, but it might be that you're aspiring to undertake some learning or development, you're aspiring towards a new role, you maybe want to write for publication, you want to get involved in research or audit, you want to extend your networks, you want to innovate or do some quality improvement stuff, anything for you. So this is very personal. that will help you with your career aspiration and widening your kind of personal and professional scope. So in your groups, you can identify that, please. You're going to also identify the type of support that you need in order to achieve the aspiration or work towards the aspiration. And then write down at least one action point that you're going to take next to help you realise the aspiration. So I want this to be very purposeful. I want this to be action focused. As I say, one of the reasons for today is that we would leave you with some tools to help you take the first and next steps in your career aspiration journey. So Katrina, if people can go into groups now for me, if I'm able to, I will pop into the groups before we come back together. And it would be great to hear from one or two of you when you come back. But the main thing is to have that conversation, get your thoughts down, and definitely identify at least one action point. Katrina.
Thanks, Ruth. Just to say, the slides will disappear once you go into your breakout room. So if you wanted to take a photo or a screenshot of it, so that you've got that in front of you, you can do that. Ruth or Zsuzsa, how long would you like people to be in?
I was just going to ask the same question.
Do we say, what's the time? Sorry, I can't see the clock on my screen anymore.
It's 15:15, so we have
5 minutes and no
5
longer.
minutes.
Strictly
Okay.
5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, you should, if you're not used to breakout rooms, you'll get a box come up on your screen that says join breakout room. You'll just need to click that and that will take you through into your breakout rooms. Okay, we'll see you shortly.
Thank you.
I thought we've had 5 minutes. That was a very quick 5 minutes.
You had exactly 5 minutes, Ruby Lopez. Exactly 5 minutes.
Rod, sorry, I didn't get you. You can email me. You can send me a message, direct message.
Don't worry, because you can build on the work that you started in the breakout rooms. It was a very, very short time, but welcome back, and I hope it was useful. Would anyone like to share an action and an aspiration that they are intending to take? It'd be really good to hear from one or two of you.
Okay, I'll share the group too, the breakout room too.
Thank you.
Okay, so in that breakout, we learned that there's so much more that the career aspiration is really great. One, to become a band 7 who is preparing for the interview on Friday. It wasn't her initial, her main aspiration. She wanted to do a advanced neonatal practitioner course, but because of what educational attainment she's got, that's what make her not go for it, because she's not educationally qualified to go on that route. So she wanted to know, what is the best way, what is the pathway for her to be able to go on that route. And then another same thing with one who is also want to do a nurse consultant. So currently she's a band 6 and aiming to go on a nurse consultant pathway. She also wanted to know, how can she go on that route, because currently, there's no clear pattern, or there's no clear pathway on how she can go on that. One of us in the room also mentioned that she is going to do a QIS course, which is the specialist course to be neonatal intensive care nursing, neonatal intensive care nurse. So she knows the support available for her, but she doesn't know that she can go any further after that. So she said this is kind of like an eye-opener, that she can go further to that, being a QIS, and then to the band 6 and to band 7 and so much more. So yeah, that's what we are in break. I didn't share my thought, but I'll share it to you later.
Thank you. That's brilliant. Thank you, Ruby. It's lovely to hear from you in terms of representing some of the reflections of the group. The slides that I'm going to go through, hopefully, are going to signpost people to where they might go to support with some of their aspirations. There will be, I'll leave a little bit of time for questions at the end in case there's anything that I need to just kind of reflect back on, or if people have any additional questions. I'm going to ask Katrina. Katrina, if you would put up my next slide. I think I was on slide, the next one. Okay, so this slide is about, yeah, it goes back to my kind of reflection around being purposeful in what you're doing, and, you know, thinking about how you can influence and inform and really be, you know, you are the leader of yourself. How can you navigate what's out there if you meet your career aspirations? So I've already talked about making use of CPD, the whole myriad of CPD that's out there, and really evidencing what you're learning. Put yourself in a position where you can be exposed to things that will help your career trajectory, whether it's, and you'll know, you know, your organisation will have mechanisms for this, whether it's shadowing, whether there are opportunities for secondment, whether you can buddy up and work in collaboration with other teams, you know, however you need to creatively seek your CPD, think about doing that. You really also need to have some important discussions with your line manager, and when you go into those one-to-one and review meetings, you really should be direct in that conversation and saying, this is my aspiration, this is what I would like to do, this is an idea that I have, how can you support me to do this? So be really purposeful in those discussions. Don't wait to be told, or don't expect to be told, because I think you might be disappointed. Become active across employment and professional issues, and by that I mean take a look at what is going on, so within your directorate, on your ward, within your specialism, within the RCN, and get involved in something that interests you. So we have a number of forums and networks and consultations and projects that we're working on, and we always want those to be informed by the member voice. So we have nurses and midwives in our membership, and we want to hear from all of you to inform some of the priorities that we're focusing on. So whether it's health and safety, well-being, professional issues, innovation, research, get involved in what is going on within your sphere of influence, within your specialism. And if you're stuck with getting a foot in the door or making that first approach, speak with your line manager. You've got a wealth of resource in this room as well. You've got Monica, Katrina, Shuja, Ruby, other members of the network. Speak to all of your support networks to help you reach into and influence what's happening within your sphere. So that includes networks and equality priorities, of which there are many. Build peer support. So you've got a network of people on, I think every time I meet with people on Zoom, on Teams, whatever the entity is, that is a great opportunity for network. So look at some of the names, look at who's talking, what are they saying, can I follow that person? Every engagement is an opportunity to network. And for me, those networks and collaborations that I made at the outset and all the way through have really strengthened you know, my journey. Thank you, Juja. I note the 2-minute warning. Engaging the local and national events, and I will signpost you to the pages that will take you to various links. We've got careers tools. So for the individual who spoke about how can I navigate that route into becoming a consultant nurse, we have that link will take you to a careers tool that hopefully will give you some signposting around what to do. Can I have the next slide, please? Okay, there's a link on my final slide around writing CVs and interview prep and some draft questions that you might think about. Learn how to ask for, give and receive feedback. It's a real skill, and it's part of our revalidation requirements. Use the evidence that's available to you to make a case for change. So Katrina has already shared some of the workforce data. How can you use that data to make a case for change where you work? So use your evidence base. Take others with you. That's coming through as a theme today. Consider writing for publication, all of these wonderful things that you're doing, all of these great experiences that you're having. Get them out there so others can hear about it. See revalidation as a journey rather than a, oh my goodness, I need to travel everything together, I'm revalidating next month. It's a journey. and familiarise yourself. We've heard about some of the national and local leadership development opportunities that are available to you. Final slide, please, Katrina. Those are the links to some of the things that I've been talking about. We have an RCN International Nurses pages. We had some learning and development around OSCE preparation coming up. I think that's on my next slide, Katrina. And then I think we probably have about 30 seconds for questions, and I'll stop there. Are there any questions? Thank you very much for participating.
Ruth, can we share the slides for the links that you've
You can have, you both have slides, yourself and Zsuzsa. You
okay.
can share those with all of the colleagues on their call. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank
I guess
you.
I've seen the preparing for interview, so that will be for you, Jessie.
It's a very good one. Yeah, it's a very good tool. All of those tools are good. I could have put many, many more, but I handpicked those because I think they're particularly useful. So maybe let me know what people think, Ruby.
Yeah, and that's also for you, Kim. I know you're there. Trina, welcome. You're from night shift.
So thank you very much, Ruth, for taking us through that session, and I hope that having those smaller group discussions really provoked some thought and have taken the reins off where you were thinking you could, what the limit of your career development was. I hope that we've stripped away all those things that were holding you back, and you're now feeling much more confident about going forward. So as we go into our break time, if you want to put your camera down, and we'll stay on mute, and the slide will appear that just says refreshment time. If you could be back at 1:45, we will commence with our next session and our next guest. So look forward to seeing you all shortly. Thank you. Welcome back. I hope people are feeling refreshed, revived, and are able to put their cameras back on, and so we can get some interaction and see your lovely faces. As I said earlier on, it's really great for the facilitators and those sharing to be able to gauge your reactions and to really understand where we are connecting. So thank you so much. I really do appreciate your support in that. We are due to have as our next slot Gary Parlett, who's the education lead for nursing midwifery and allied health professionals. But as far as I can see, Katrina, he's not joined, has he yet?
Not just yet, no.
Yeah, I have messaged. No doubt the organisation is challenged for bed space at the moment, and so I think a lot of people are trying to do what they can clinically. So we will keep an eye out, and hopefully he will be able to join us for his slot, because he's got a few slides to go through with us, which talk about the support in terms of what the trust can offer for official routes that might be able to help career development. And I know in some of the shared and stories that people had referenced tools that they'd used and routes that they had gone through that has really helped them in their journeys and their career progression. So hopefully if Gary's able to join us, then he will take us through that. If for some reason that we're finding that he is not able to join us, so I might have to keep an eye on my email box at the same time, then hopefully I will take us through those slides that he's already provided for us. And as we said earlier on, we are hoping, right, he's in the waiting room, so that's good news. So Katrina, if you could.
He's not in this waiting room. Shall I just double check that he's got the right link?
Yeah. So
I've sent it again this morning.
yeah, I know you do, Ruby. I'm just going to let him know. There we go. So hopefully he will be joining us any minute.
So I am, yeah, I'm just going to take this opportunity to thank everyone on the call today, on the webinar today, because I know most of you are doing it in your own time. And some of you are also came from night shift. Thank you so much for supporting this webinar, and I hope we really hope that you get, you know, what we aim to give you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruby. So we're very, very pleased and excited to have Gary with us. Gary, we've done your introduction and told everybody the role that you have in the organisation, and we're just so thrilled that you've managed to step out of the busy schedule that you have to be able to join the webinar. And we've had some very powerful stories so far this morning, and people are really keen to understand how they can progress and what support tools there are. So fantastic that you're able to join us. Katrina's doing the slides, so she'll move them on when you're ready, and we're also keeping an eye on the chat box for you just in case. So we'll hand over, and we're all ears. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Really great to see you. My name's Gary. I'm the head of non-medical education here at Cambridge University Hospitals, and I'm delighted to come and talk to you this morning about the opportunities we have for learning and development. So next slide, please. Thanks. So here at CUH, we've got a variety of ways in which you can do training and education. And one of the opportunities we have is through funded learning, and that goes to a group called Funded Learning Assessment or Action Group. And what we do there is we assess applications from members of staff. So if you want to go on a course, let's say you want to do a module, what you need to do is speak to your manager about it and see whether they will support you doing it. You then fill a form in, and just to say, the module can really be anything that is to do or relates to your professional practice. So we have people doing all sorts of modules, from clinical modules through to coaching modules, through to leadership, all sorts of modules. So it's not just about clinical care. Obviously, a lot of the applications we do get are about clinical care because people want to do more development opportunities within their area of practice. So the flag group is consisted of myself, it's consisted of another member of the education team, somebody from finance, somebody from workforce, and somebody from research. And we also have representatives from the division. So when you fill your form in, basically you put on there what course you want to do, where you want to do it. And that's an important thing in terms of where you want to do it, because now with the advent of digital learning, you're not restricted to just doing courses in Cambridge. So if you've got, I don't know, we've got some people doing courses with Aberdeen, for example, at the moment. So if you want to do a programme that's only offered in Coventry or Warwick or something like that, that is not a barrier at all, because most universities or training institutions are now doing an online offer. And so it's really important you look wide, you look at what training you think you need, and it doesn't have to be a university module either. It can be a study day. It could be going to a seminar about something. So anything where you need funding. If you don't need funding, you don't need to send a form in to us. You just need to agree that with your manager. And we're seeing at the moment, I think staff are really finding it really challenging to be released. So I think what we do is ask people to plan well ahead so that we can get these applications in, we can look at them, we can then approve them, we can get the payment sorted out, and we can get your duty, rota, you can get that arranged with your manager. I think it's really important to say that the group are highly supportive. We approve over 99% of applications that we have this year anyway. So I think it's not about being, why would I get funding, or is it challenging to get funding? Is it hard to get funding? No, it's not hard to get funding whatsoever. We have a huge budget to spend. Our budget this year was in excess of about 1.67 million. So we've got a lot of money to spend on training. And for individuals who need to revalidate, you know, professional individuals. Obviously, this is really good evidence, and you've all got the £1,000 over 3 years, which was pledged by the government, and we're into year 3 of that at the moment. So please make sure you do access that. Next slide, please. So something you may have heard of, and we're really trying to raise the profile of this, is the professional nurse advocate role in the trust. And I've been putting lots of feelers out via the practice development teams. We're trying to increase the number of professional nurse advocates in the trust. And this is something that the Chief Nursing Officer, Ruth May, is very keen on, that we should have 1 professional nurse advocate for 20 registered members of staff. So at the moment, we've got about 30 either in training or have completed their training. And the professional nurse advocate is about providing restorative supervision sessions for colleagues. So it's a really important role. And it's something that if you're interested in supporting your colleagues and your peers and supporting them to sort of debrief situations, to look at how things have been going, and to use a real structured approach to education and development. So if you're interested in that, again, get in touch with the funded learning inbox. We've had free places for this program, and we've got some more free places coming up, and we really warmly welcome applications to undertake the professional nurse advocate role. So next slide, please. So the Leadership Development Academy, the NHS, has got many layers here, and some of you may have already done some of these. And if you've already done one, that's great. You can move on to the next one. If you've not done one, please do consider it. So we've got right through from the Edward Jenner programme, right through to the Nye Bevan programme, and there's also the Stepping Up programme as well. And again, these are provided by NHS Leadership Academy. If you find a programme that you want to do that is not within the NHS Leadership Academy, that is equally fine as well. It's about you finding a programme which you know, will provide you with the development which you need, because development is all about you as an individual. And obviously we've got some very broad courses that we offer, but sometimes they just don't quite, you know, land with people as they need to. So we're really keen, you know, for people to tell us, you know, about courses. We've got a lot of people doing courses with charities at the moment, with the, specialist groups, you know, and I think it's really important that in order to develop our understanding, you know, of equality, diversity and inclusivity, that we actually access training from a really broad spectrum of providers. So we're really keen that we can obviously use the NHS Leadership Academy if that's what your wish is, but equally we can look elsewhere as well. Next slide, please. So obviously, what else are we doing? Obviously, there's training on DOT. There's some really good things on there relating to equality and diversity. We've got BAME representation on panels. So we're always looking, when we're interviewing prospective students or people for apprenticeships, we're always looking for people to join our interview panel. So if you're interested in that, again, drop an email to the funded learning box, let us know your details. We'd love to hear from you. We are constantly interviewing for new apprentices to come into the organisation, and we'd love to hear from people from right the way across the organisation, because the more breadth we can get on our panels, obviously we then absolutely are sure that we're reaching out to everybody. A big part of my role here at CUH is to professionally oversee the international recruitment that we do in the trust for nurses, for midwives, and we've just got some radiographers coming to join us as well. And just to let you know, we have got approximately 30 overseas nurses joining us every single month. And this year we're projected to have about 360 international nurses alone joining us. We've got international nurse educators who are on the team. And again, if you're interested in coming and spending some time with us as a professional development opportunity, as an education team, we're always really welcome to hear from colleagues who might want to dip their toe into the water, come and spend some time with some of the educators in the team. And actually at the moment we're advertising for educators band 6, which we would really welcome some applications for. And we've got some clinical facilitator roles out as well, and they're band 6. So again, would warmly welcome applications for those to come and work in part of the education community. They're often fixed term opportunities, so sometimes we have 6 months, sometimes we have 12 months, sometimes it's 2 years. Excuse me. And these opportunities are career development opportunities. So it's not all about education and training. It's that we can offer you some time to come and spend with the education team to develop your understanding of education. And because from an education faculty perspective, I need to build an education faculty of the future as well. So we need to think about our development pipelines. Hopefully you're all aware of the clinical education team. So we've got a large team of educators who support healthcare support workers, assistant practitioners, nursing associates, nursing apprentices. We support then people when they're newly qualified through preceptorship, right through to people doing doctorates. So we've got people being supported at every level of the organisation. So I think that really sort of gives an overview of where we're at and what we offer, and I'd be really happy to take any questions if anybody's got any about what's on offer here at CUH in terms of education and development.
Quick question. You mentioned about the funded learning and how that covers like modules and short-term courses. Are there anything that kind of covers those long-term courses that you said you opt for in terms of the PhD, the masters?
Yeah.
So is that covered by funded learning as well?
Absolutely, yeah. So what we also do is, as part of the modular pathway, so we also fund full pathways as well. So if you want, you can do a standalone module, but if you want to do it as part of a master's pathway, we've even started to just approve and fund some doctorates at the moment as well. So it's really about what you feel you need, and some people feel they don't want to commit to the whole pathway. So people do a module and then really like it and think, can I do another module? Yes, so we'll fund modules towards a pathway, or we'll fund the whole pathway really. So it's largely, I'm very much, because my background's in higher education, I had 16 years, working in a university. So I'm very much about tailoring education to people's individual needs rather than getting everybody has to do this or everybody has to do that, because some people, particularly if they haven't studied or they haven't studied in the UK before, it's quite an anxiety provoking experience. So often, people just do one module and then get on really well and think, oh yeah, I can do this, and then come back to us. And there's no limit about the number of times you can come back and put applications in. We get applications from people, if they're doing continuous pathways, we sometimes get 2 or 3 applications a year. And if we want a bit more clarification about what you want to do, we'll get back in touch with you, one of the panel members, where we'll have a really supportive conversation about what's on offer and where we can help you with your development, really. Does that help?
Yes, it does. Where do we get hold of the form, or is it just accessible through our line managers?
No, it's accessible through line managers. It's on DOT as well on the system. But if you get stuck, just email Funded Learning. We've got a sticker administrator. We to let you know within 6 weeks afterwards. But the one thing we do ask you to do is you don't pay money yourself and then put in your form, because reclaiming money and repaying money is much more complicated than us actually paying the provider directly for the program. And also, don't want you laying out your own money for programs. There is a really healthy pot there that we need to be spending. So I'm probably one part of the organisation that wants you to spend money, really. So I'm not asking you to save money. I want to spend money, because obviously we have a really significant investment from Health Education England, and then the trust then puts a very significant piece of money in with that. And if we don't spend it, we have to explain why we haven't spent the money rather than why we spent too much money. So you'll often see that as the financial year comes to an end, there'll be flyers going out, there'll be training coming out, because we're desperately trying to really maximise the usage of our funds. Yeah. I just wanted to put a question out there, really. So about, I think it was 2 years ago now, the government in the UK announced that professional registrants would have access to up to £1,000 for training and development. And I just wondered how many people on this webinar were aware of that. Are you all aware of that, or no? No, so it was an incentive that was put out from the government in terms of helping people to continue with professional development. So organisations were funded, according to their staffing, for £1,000 per registrant. And so we will be getting in touch with all registrants, because this is the 3rd year of it, to see, have you used your CPD allocation? Do you wish to use it? Some people don't wish to use it. They've already got their degree or their master's and they haven't used it, and that's absolutely fine. But equally, I'm not always sure that people know that this is out there to spend. So yeah, you're all am I going to see a flood of applications now coming in? But just to say, if you want to go on a module, and some of the modules can be sort of over £1,000, don't be afraid of that at all. The £1,000 is just the benchmark figure that was given by the government to organisations who spend over a 3-year period. Yeah, somebody's just put a question in the chat which has just popped up. So that's Ruth. Yeah, hi Ruth, thanks for the question. Oh, you're in the middle. Oh, I can see you now. Sorry, this person was waving. That's okay. So yeah, so this is a real key challenge for us, Ruth. And I'm not going to lie, it is, as you know, you all know, in the trust, it is a huge challenge in terms of staffing, and we've had COVID, and then we had Lassa fever and everything else. So what we say is we ask managers to look at this on an individual basis. And I mean, I must say that most managers, you know, where they can, are hugely supportive of this. But I think if any of you are finding that it's very challenging and you can't get time, or you feel that you're not being treated fairly or equitably, you need to let me know about that, because I can then have a conversation with the heads, you know, chief nurse and head of AHP, Lorraine. You know, I've just been on a meeting with her. We want to be sure that people are able to have the opportunity to, but what we may say to people is we can fund, you know, the learning, but actually some of the time that you'll need to spend maybe need to be done in your own time, which is not ideal, I agree, but we don't want to prohibit learning. But it's something we're looking at, Ruth, across the organisation, because we recognise that part of recovery from the unprecedented period of activity we've had is to have restorative education and restorative supervision. So we absolutely want to get to that, but it's just, how do we get to that? And if you've got any ideas, anybody in the room, about how we do that, I would really welcome that, because I think it's a challenge that all organisations face currently. Yeah. Any other questions from anybody? No.
Yes, Barry, it's me. It's Ruby. Nice to see face in the email address. Nice to meet you.
Yes, absolutely, Ruby. And you work on NICU, don't you? Is that right?
Ruby.
Ruby, do you work on NICU?
Yes, I do. Yes.
I thought I see from your email. Yeah, nice to meet you in person.
Nice to meet you. My question is, although it might be a daft question, is the funded £1,000 over 3 years, are the mandatory included on that, or
no,
oh, right, okay.
Training is something which the trust requires you to do. No, we don't. No, that's not included. Yeah. This is for your own professional development. And Ruby, I'm going to, as I've now got you and I can see who you are, I'm going to ask a question of you, because what we're seeing is people from who've joined us from overseas don't seem to be coming to access training and education monies from us. And when I've spoken to some of my team who come over as part of earlier international nurse cohorts, the feedback I've had is that some people feel if they do courses, then they've got to apply for band 6 and band 7, and perhaps that's not the plan to do that. They're quite happy being band 5, you know, in the trust. And I just wanted to just seek your thoughts, and just to reassure people that if you do go on education programs, we'd love you to progress and go to band 6, 7 and 8 and above, but actually that's not why we're doing this. This is about developing you as an individual. And Ruby, just whether you could give me any thoughts on that, or if you've got any insights at all.
First, you know, I've just learned about this funding through the RCN when we were doing one of our webinars or sessions. So yeah, as you can see, they are not aware of this funding. The courses that you are right, there is a expectation that even the managers, you know, will have an expectation that you wanted to do that course because you want to progress. Yeah. You want to progress to band 5 or to band 6 to band 7, or you know, it's because of that. And then someone will tell you that, you know, it doesn't make you a band 7, you know, if you access the course. So I think the most thinking of the staff is you can only be promoted if you have done this additional course, or if you have done this, if you have done that. It's kind of like a tick box for the promotion. It's not your professional development, because that's now how we see it, but that's not how I see it. You know, I think with my experience, I'm just going to say, oh, I haven't ticked the box, because I was told once that my experience doesn't matter. You know, my experience doesn't matter. It's what I talk about on the day during the interview. You know, so I you know, it's only my personal thoughts. I'm sure the others will can relate on this as well. That we only think that we can only progress if we have ticked the boxes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's about, again, looking at everything individually, but just to reassure people that if you do undertake, funded learning, yes, it can be, as you say, Ruby, it can be the gateway to the next step. But equally, if you want to develop within the grade in which you're already in, that's perfectly acceptable. So there's no pressure if you do a course to then think, oh my goodness, I've then got to do this, I've then got to do that. And again, if you're getting any feedback like that, you need to let me know, because I need to put the divisional matrons and the senior nurses and allied health professionals to really work on this, because it's about developing you as an individual as much as us thinking about career trajectories and trust priorities. So
thank you, Gary. That's been a really useful session, and I'm sure that we probably could have run twice as long on this with people wanting to ask you specific questions and get your support and engagement. So hopefully, as a result of this webinar, there'll be questions and people putting in their applications for the flag funding, and maybe we can have you back for another session with us. So thank you very much.
Delighted, anytime to come along, and if any of you see me in the trust, stop me and say hello. I'm more than happy to chat about education morning, noon and night. So yeah, absolutely. Have a good day and enjoy the rest of the session.
Thank you, Gary. Bye.
Bye now. Bye bye.
So Ruby, you started to get into some of your story then, as Gary was asking you questions, and we're actually on to the spot now for you to share some of that story with us all. So Ruby, as a senior sister and also RCN learning rep and secretary in the organisation, many strings to your bow. I'm sure there's lots that we could learn from you, and so we look forward to hearing some of your story now. Thank you, Ruby.
Right. Okay. Where do we go from here? So what's next after hearing what we've heard from Gary, from Ruth, from the lived experiences? Where do we go from here? Next slide, please. Right. Okay. No more talking. The time is over. These are the two phases that I got caught by Baroness McGregor-Smith on her report on race in the workplace review, and it's a really long recommendations. For decades, employers have committed to racial equality, but up to now, it remains a problem. Vast majority of BME staff are still disadvantaged in many aspects. So what do we do now? Next slide, please. The change needs to come from the top, and the shift of culture needs to start from the top as well. But it's only that we as an individual can play a role in the shift of culture, in the culture change. So what we do are your appraisals. Remember, your appraisals are about your achievements. It is about the celebration of the work you've done for the year. It is about yourself. It is safe. I remember one of you here listening said when I was writing my appraisal, I said, "Oh, why are you writing? Are you writing a book?" Because her appraisal is just like 1 or 2 paragraphs and it's finished. And I said, but this is what I've done for the whole year. This is my celebration of my achievements. This is your setting of objectives. So this is your aspirations and goals. This is about you. So do your appraisal, not just a tick box. Ask for clear setting of objectives from your appraiser. Get a 1:1 informal meeting. I know it doesn't happen, but you don't know that your appraisers is already doing informal 1:1 with you. Say, for example, you've got your appraisal 3 months ago, and you had set your objectives, but nothing is happening within the 3 months. Ask for an informal meeting. Just say, can I follow up? Where are we on this? Because nothing is happening. You said you're gonna do this, you're gonna do that. I just want to know where we are at the moment. Take ownership of your objectives. See what are your plans. It's not only that, you need to be proactive in your setting your objectives and in your action plans. Appraisal is not a tick box. I always want to say this. The trust is taking accountability to deliver positive results. So that's why they are asking the appraisals to be done in a certain time. We are having this webinar. The trust is supporting us. The chief of nursing also knows that we are doing this webinar, and she wants to know the progress. She wants to know the feedback, and if we're gonna roll it out in the whole trust. That's her plan. Next slide, please. Sorry, I'm really sorry. Let's go back. I was mentioning about reverse mentoring and the mentorship programs as well. Do you know that the trust is offering reverse mentoring as well? So, for example, Fortune here, a Band 5 nurse, can mentor Zusha. Both of you can learn from each other. It's not only that the top one will mentor the junior ones. No, this is what reverse mentoring is: knowing what the others don't know. It's helping you both grow together. Professionally, and personally. Get all the secondment opportunities. It's not. Do not say, "Oh, I don't like to go on that interview, on that secondment, because I'm gonna go for an interview again." No, get those opportunities because it's for you to develop. Just like what Gary said, it's personal and professional development. And get all the secondment opportunities that you can get. Apply for it. Don't stop yourself from applying if it's only a secondment. Now, and also know your underutilized hidden talents. Some of you came from abroad, from your previous country with a vast, major experience, a lot of experience. Say, for example, you know from your previous experience that you can cannulate and you are not allowed to here. Get those competency signs. Be a member of the team. You can do it. You know you can do it. You just need that one paper to be signed off. We want your talents. This is how we progress as an institution. And it's not only like clinical talent. Say you have hidden talent for writing. Maybe that writing we can use that for research. So it's not only clinical talents, it's everything. What is your hidden talent? Just don't tell me that you can eat a whole chicken. I don't want to know that. Or you can step on the ladder just to do one step. It's not that. Next slide, please. Right, what are the barriers and challenges? As I am telling you the barriers and challenges that I have encountered, I'd like you to please put in the chat box, what do you think are the most challenge that you're thinking, and if you want to have a career progression. Next slide, please. Keeping an eye on the chat box. Sense of marginalization. Right, we have experienced this. I don't want to go for that job, because what is the point? They have already decided who's gonna go for it. What is the point? My face doesn't fit on that group. I'm not going for that. No, please shift that mentality. We don't want that mentality. You need to, we are all the same. We might not look the same, but we all have that opportunity to apply, to join the group. If the face fits no more should be our mentality. Language can be a barrier, but as Ruth had put it out, we have a lot of resources for interview techniques. You can also look for a writing application, and how would you write the application if you want to get that job. Make notes, identify your actions in overcoming the challenges. So I applied for a senior post in the trust. I wasn't even shortlisted. So what did they do? They said to me, "I'm not in the note they said that we're not giving feedback." But I called the recruiter, based upon I said I need the feedback on what can I improve on. So that's what I done. So that's what I did. So next time. Just last week, I applied again for another Band 8A position. Again, I was not shortlisted, although I have put the actions, the actions that I got from the first application. The feedback I've done that, I've made that, but I was not shortlisted. But will it make me stop from applying again? No, because this is what I said to Joshua and Ruth, for me, just putting in the application is already an achievement, because I know that I can do the job. So if I don't get shortlisted at this time, I will try again until they don't, until they got fed up with me and say, "Oh, she's applying it again." Okay, so I'm just going to take her. So I'm going to do it again. It won't stop me. Right, okay. Let's go back to the...
I'm very conscious that we're running over time.
Okay.
So I don't know whether if you can just summarise, and we might have to leave your questions to the end so that we can get to Rosalind and Ruth's session.
Okay, just can we please go to the first slide? Right, I did see this. I did put this eagle, because why I put the eagles as the first application? Because like you all to be eagles. Eagles fly in high altitude. They do not mix with narrow-minded people. So please don't mix with narrow-minded people, those that bring you down. Eagles fly alone, fly with eagles, so they do give good company. Eagles are focused and accurate vision. It will not move until he grabs his prey, no matter what the obstacles. that means that we have an accurate. You have an accurate vision. Just grab for that dream, for that ambition, for that goal. Eagle loves the storm. It uses the wind of storm and its rage to lift itself above the cloud. If you want to achieve something, do not be afraid of the challenges. Do not be afraid to rise in greater heights. Use your own strengths. You can fly high. Be eagles. That's it. That's my message.
Thank you, Ruby. Such inspiration. That's really great words for all of us to live by. Just amazing to think of that eagle, and I'm sure many of us will have that image before us for quite a while as we're going for the next job application. I'm really pleased and delighted that we've got Rosalind with us, and as I said earlier on, a great wealth of experience. So nurse researcher, senior lecturer, and for international studies and education champion as well. So many strings to your bow, Rosalind. So you're very welcome. And I understand that you and Ruth are going to do a session together now, and hopefully there'll be an opportunity for us to have some questions and answers at the end, which might encompass some of the questions that people might have for Ruby as well. So over to you two. I don't really want the slide up or the slide down.
No, can you see the slide up, Sophia? And then
Thank
and then we can see everyone. Rosalind, please excuse my throat. I apologise to the delegates already, but I'm just struggling with a cold at the moment, but hopefully we'll get on fine. I'm really delighted that Rosalind has been able to join us today. I only met Rosalind recently. She was signposted to me through one of my networks. So Leandra sits on the Chief Nursing Officer Black and Minority Ethnic Peer Action Group, and she signposted me to Rosalind to support our event. So we've had a couple of conversations and lots of email exchange, and I know that Rosalind's contribution will be really, really valuable today. So Rosalind and I, we're going to be in conversation with Ruth and Rosalind. I've got 4 questions to ask to Rosalind. There will be opportunity, which I think we hope you'll take on, for you to ask questions or share some reflections, and verbally, but also in the chat. So I believe we've still got half an hour. Is that right, Shusha? Got half an hour, even though we're running over?
Yes, you have, yeah, and that just leaves us 5 minutes at the end for any final questions.
Lovely. Thank you. So I'll proceed into our 4 questions, and then, as I say, we'll have opportunity for some reflection and discussion time. And I know, Rosalind, that you were able to kind of dip in and dip out. You have commitments that you had to obviously meet. Although you haven't heard all of this event, I think you've heard most of it. You were here at the start and then had to go away in the middle. So to help us learn a little bit about you and to meet you and get to know you a little bit better, would you tell us about your journey to your current role, please?
Thank you, Ruth, and thank you, Susa, and very good afternoon to everyone who's attending this event. I just want to congratulate everyone who was involved in organizing this event, and if you are in this event also, I want to congratulate you because you've taken the effort to come here. Because I am feeling quite empowered already from listening to some of the. I was not there for the entire part, but I listened to Sharla and as well as just Ruby and all the thoughts, the experience that's coming through. I can relate to each one, and I just to give you a little bit of information about myself. It will be used. I'll only give you the information that I think will be useful for you because that's part of why I am here today. So currently, I'm working as a senior lecturer in University University, and I have a lot of passion for research. Apart from the other things I will share with you in a minute. So I have currently connections with 4 research groups. 2 research groups have only international nurses working with me, and I'm also working with one BAME related, which is basically looking at ethnicity and COVID. I'm also working with an international research group on patient safety, looking at speaking up. And I'm also working with BINA, British Indian Nurses Association, and recently I was involved in one of their initiatives to upskill nurses in India because there was a big struggle about managing COVID-19. I have my backgrounds, I have acute care background, so I was part of the core group which planned all the topics and also looked at the design and the delivery of the entire program. We won an award, Global Excellence Healthcare Award from that, and we were invited to Parliament. As well as we've now been shortlisted to present in our CN Education Conference. That's a little bit of what is happening currently with me. And my journey itself started after I finished BSc program in India in 1998. I have 5 years of experience in 3 different countries in India, Nepal, and Saudi, and I chose to go there. And Indian nursing program normally covers mental health, midwifery, child health, clinical areas. So I've done all of that, and also supported starting a nursing school at diploma level in India. So when I came here in 2003, 10 years of experience in NHS has been mostly within ICU. As you know, you all have been informed about the secondment opportunities. I took one of them and worked as a research nurse, which I will never forget because that really made a difference in my career, and I will talk about it later. So educational facilitator role was a secondment role. Again, I did that role as well. And again, that was quite pivotal, you know, that role was quite pivotal in what I'm doing today and moving into higher education in 2013, I must say. And also I'm doing my PhD program at the moment, writing up stage, and it is on overseas experience, nurses experience and speaking up and patient safety. It's all related to that. I'm not going too much into details because I haven't published anything directly in relation to my PhD program. So that's a little bit about my journey, and I'll give you the specifics in a minute with other questions that we will be discussing. Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you, Rosalind. That's lovely. I wonder if you'd tell us about who and what have been the biggest influences on your work and studies.
Thank you, Ruth. I really like the way Ruby put forward, you know, one of her points were about think about what you already have. So I'm just going to repeat to say to you that one of the first things I always would tell anybody if they ask me what influenced you is my personal goals. So I had to understand why I was in a place and what the purpose was. And it's very simple. I don't have to add too many vocabularies to it. I'm just telling you as it is. Anywhere you are, whichever ward you are in, ask yourself the question why you are here. You probably didn't know that before, but ask it now, at least if you have not asked it before. Why you're there, and never forget what you already have, because you're not starting clean slate. So, you know, about talents were mentioned earlier, okay? And also, I would say that if somebody said something that hurt you, I would take it as creative as you can, because I've had that experience in the past, and I felt always that I thrived among critical friends. So I would consider anything negative that comes or you're involved with, you know, anything that you see, you should look at it as those people are your critical friends. Even yeah, as a lecturer, we have appraisals, we have reviews of teaching. Anybody tells me anything that I need to be now improving on, I would always think that these people are my critical friends, and it has helped me. It has really helped me. I would never take it as a negative comment. I would take it more as, okay, this person has said, is there some truth in it? What am I? Where do I need to change? And those sort of thoughts have always helped me. So I just want to ask you to be, you know, have that perspective. The other thing is when I said understand why you are here and never forget what your talents are. We all are unique and we have our own personalities and we have our own limits and boundaries at every stage of our life. And you need to try and understand wherever you are, whatever, you need to understand the limits and boundaries, because you don't want to make mistakes. Of course, you can go and if you don't know where you want to go and which direction you want to go, you have to try out few things first, which is what I did when I moved from NHS, when I thought that, okay, which direction am I going to move? Am I going to go on a management route, or should I choose the teaching line? I had to go and try both jobs. I applied, I attended interviews, you feel that you really love your job, but you have to step, and you feel that there's a long way to go, do not step back either. I would say that write down or make note of what are those things that you need to learn and go ahead with that kind of dream. And that also has helped me, and I'm going to talk about that a little later, because there was an area where I was completely uncomfortable, but I had to make my way in that direction using certain steps, and I will talk about that later.
Lovely, Rosalind, thank you. I love the reflections on that sense of purpose thing. I think it's a really good question for us to ask ourselves, you know, why am I here? And then the piece that you spoke to around feedback, and I said earlier in this meeting, the value of giving and receiving feedback is absolutely an art form, it's a skill. If somebody asks you for feedback, you should be respectful enough to be able to give that person feedback that they can do something with it. Be very, be very critical but very kind. Give them information that will enable them to do things differently based on what feedback that you're sharing. And then we know through revalidation that feedback is incredibly important. As registrants, we need to be purposefully seeking feedback about how we perform in our respective roles. Hopefully. So question 3 then for you, Roslyn. What does your research and experience tell us about barriers and facilitators of personal and professional growth and development for internationally recruited nurses, Black and minority ethnic staff?
Excellent. That's actually crux of why we are here, I think. So thank you very much for covering that as part of our presentation. Before I answer that question, I want to give a quick example to all of us. When I moved into university, somebody told me that don't choose this particular person to review your teaching. I purposely chose that person because they said that person is very tough, they're very critical, but I actually chose that person. And you might think you're quite foolish. Why did you choose that? What if that person gave you negative comments? But I took it positively. And I must say that I will not look back on that decision, because when I did that and the comments that came forward, I was able to apply every feedback that person gave. And I must say that post that, I was actually, that contributed also, but then I was chosen to be, outstanding personal tutor of the year that day. I'm just trying to say to you that don't be afraid of anything. So I'm moving on to the barriers, directly answering your question, Ruth. There's a lot of research done on internationally recruited nurses, as well as being, a wider approach looking at the experience of these people. And I'm just going to refer to one. I purposely kept away from appearing as an academician because I don't want to talk terms and sophisticated terminologies. This will be the only one I refer to. So the field trust was actually commissioned by NHSEI to look at factors affecting the levels of international recruitment. And they picked up some push and pull factors, but I'm sure you all can relate to that when I tell you what exactly it is. So the reason we all have migrated into this country could be one of these reasons. You probably came for the pay, maybe you came here for a better quality of life, or better working condition. Maybe the countries that we came from didn't have very good working conditions. And that's one of the reasons why you moved here. Or it could be career progression, or it could be you want to come here and study masters and things like that. Or maybe in the city you were, or in the country you live, there was a big unemployment issue. So these are some of the reasons why international nurses move in here into UK or migrate to any other country. Some of them move because they just want to learn the language. Some of them have families here and hence they want to move here. So there's so many reasons why people move here. And I asked you the question earlier, and I, kind of put you in the direction to think why you're here. So, but apart from these reasons I've just mentioned, what other factors have moved you here is something that you need to think about here and now, because that's gone. You're here now. What next? So in my research, what I have seen, I just want to share a little bit about it, because I'm not actually sharing all the findings, but I'll just tell you from my review of literature that's already published and how it connects with some of my findings. So all the research so far is talking about the racial discrimination. It's talking about the sort of things that you already mentioned about career progression and how you feel that they won't shortlist you, or you don't go for a job because you think that there's no point in it, because you probably heard rumors of somebody else being picked up already for that role. All these reasons are there. But my perspective on how to actually deal with any of those, the sounds and the voices that come to you, is really looking at whether the organization, whichever organization, and this particular point I'm going to make goes to both the organization as well as the international recruits or the BAME nurses. It goes for both. We've got to look at the organization structure and see what opportunities are out there. And that has to be seen at all levels, not just one, at all levels. So some of us might be sitting in a medical ward as a Band 5 nurse, and we have this very narrow view of what exactly happens, what happens only within that ward, and we don't think about what happens in the other ward. So an awareness is so very important, which I will talk a little bit later part. I'm coming to the final question soon, so I will touch on that. But if you ask me about the barriers and the facilitators, from research, my points are you need to understand your organization in its entirety, not just that simple ward and that small area you're working in. That's very, very important. And for the organization itself, we have to ask the question whether as an organization, do we have a structure that offers the opportunity at all levels and at all stages of the journey of a BIM nurse with their progression and development. I'm going to stop there only because I don't want to overlap over the fourth point. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosalind, for elaborating on those points. So my fourth and final question to you before we turn to delegates for comments or reflections. So delegates earlier on had an opportunity to do a little bit of group work and individual work around their actions to kind of ignite their professional aspirations. What are your key messages of inspiration for Black and minority ethnic staff and organisations for realising staff potential and harnessing talent?
Thank you, Ruth. So I'm going to use 3 B's for this. So the first thing is be empowered and empower others. So I am here actually because I feel as I was listening to you, I was empowered myself, and I'm also here to empower you. What does that do to me? It gives me a great sense of achievement. So if you haven't done that before, I would suggest that you start to do that. It doesn't have to be at a very big level or something big. It can start with something small. You know, the reverse mentoring that was mentioned earlier, that's quite powerful actually in my view, because you're actually empowering each other that way. And just by asking what I am doing here today, where I am, all of these questions will make you actually support somebody else who's struggling with that question. So that way you empower others as well. So one of the key things I want to tell you today is if you feel not so empowered, please remember that you have something in you that can empower another person. Even if you have worked only 2 days in a trust, you will have something to give somebody else. So that would be one of the points I want to tell you, because that is very personal and it's my story that I'm sharing with you. So I'm not telling you something because I think it should be part of this presentation. It's all something that I have experienced personally. The second point that it's pronounced so loud and clear within today's event is be updated. Okay, so my second B is be updated. Research awareness is vital. Your awareness of what's happening in your trust, this 1,000 pounds which Gary was referring to earlier, none of you knew it. Awareness and networking is so important. ASEAN is here today. You also have other networks. The BIM network was mentioned. Find out what is going on around you. Be aware. Charlotte mentioned earlier about how she feels that this generation and what is available for you today was not available for her then. That's the way even I feel. But so make use of what you have today. The third thing is breaking barriers. We already touched a little bit on that. I would say, remember this point because it's something that stayed in my head. And when I shared with Ruth, she said she liked it also. Create a table when you don't see a seat. I'll give an example. I love research. My secondment post as a research nurse really increased my passion for research. And when I started to do it, I found that I could not enter anywhere with my passion. So what I did was I started myself to form research groups. And I told you in my introduction how many research groups I have. And I still get emails of people who said, I wanted to say that they want to do a research with me. And I have to time and give appointments and create space and accommodate. This is just to say that if you have a passion and you feel that you can't see an opportunity somewhere, you create that opportunity. There will be one somewhere. And I've just given you an example. And I also want to offer to you, if any of you here have an idea, you think you need to research on it, please let me know because I'm happy to support you and initiate that thing for you. Take over initiate. And that's how I feel that I can empower you. And I myself feel empowered in doing that. The last 3 points, I'm just looking at conscious of time. So if any questions come later, I'll touch on some of the points that I want to share with you. I know we are aware of the 6 C's. I also want you to take a 3 C's from me. The first thing is, this is for organizations, to be compassionate, and the culture, we always talk about cultural awareness when we talk about BIM and international recruited nurses, but I'm saying that we should have compassionate, inclusive culture in our workplaces. So not just inclusive, but have compassionate, inclusive culture. The cultural competence that is needed is actually required for both parties. What I'm trying to say here is both the host nurses as well as the international nurses, both sides need a cultural competence awareness. Because people do not understand each other. How do we work as teams if we don't understand each other? That's why there's a lot of animosity, there's a lot of issues. If we don't understand each other, how can we work as teams? It's just lip service. We say we have to work as teams, it's on the job description, it's everywhere. But where is the connection? So that leads to my second C, creating connections. So earlier when Gary was presenting, he asked a question to Ruby, how do we go about, he asked for some suggestions and thoughts. I want to know whether you have any forums. So all this information that exists, is it just existing in air or everybody's aware of it? How can we bring all that information to the person who really needs it? I think that creating connections is the way to do it. Have little forums, whatever it may be, negotiation, whatever it may be, part of it, and ask each other what type of emails coming around. Share with each other whatever is going around. So that is one of the ways you can actually connect. That's one of the ways you know what is going on around you. The final point I want to make is about appraisals. Appraisal was mentioned earlier so beautifully by Ruby. She said you've got to actually celebrate your appraisals. So appraisal is not one way, it is two way. The reason I think Ruby said earlier that don't actually look at it as a tick box, that's because in practice, actually that's what happens a lot. They set a date and you ask, okay, what should I do? And you are given some instructions and you just come to the appointment and everything is ticked off and you come out not understanding what you have just finished doing there. So do not go into appraisal without knowing what it is that you're going in for. And how do you know what to put forward in the appraisal if you haven't worked towards it? So I really want to second what Ruby said, give it a thought, understand everything well. And for the organization, my research and all the published work around it, I would suggest that appraisals need to turn to be a resourceful event. It really needs to turn to become a resourceful event, meaning the ward manager or whoever is doing the appraisal should be in a position to give all those details that is needed for progression. They have to be in a position where they create an awareness to the person who's being appraised. If I'm a band 5, I need to know how to get to 6. I need to also know what else is available within the trust. So whatever training is needed for the managers or anybody from top management needs to be put in place. Otherwise, appraisal will be a tick box and we cannot change that culture. So the level of expectancy that is expected from anybody, level of competency that is expected from any band 6, band 7, whatever it may be, unless the descriptors are very clear and it's got a language that the person who is involved in that band understands, it would be just a piece of paper and it would remain like that. My final point on career progression development would be for both the nurses who are wanting to do the career progression and those managers or people from the organization who are in positions who are catering to it and facilitating it, is to understand that one size does not fit all. It does not fit all. We have to look at the process and see whether it is equitable. We need to look to see whether the descriptors that are there with those different competencies, whether it fits people. And if it doesn't, we've got to kind of look to see how it actually caters to the population or the group of people who it involves. And because I love research and it's my passion, I want to say that everything that you do, whether as individuals or as an organization, have research in your agenda. Because it offers, when a person publishes and writes a paper, it is your voice, it's a group voice or an individual voice. Once it's published, it becomes the voice of a wider group. So when I publish something about international nurses, it will move from being my voice to the voice of the international nurses working in UK. And that gives a lot of, it gives me a sense of achievement. It makes me feel that I have done something worthwhile. So nothing else can give you that kind of voice is something that I am trying to explain here. I hope whatever I have shared, because everything I've shared with you is my personal experience. I've not brought in any published work because I kept it. I deliberately want to speak to you about the things that empowered me, the things that hit me whilst I was working for NHS. And even now I'm connected in a contract as a bank nurse. And I love what I'm doing both as a nurse and as well as a lecturer. So whatever way I can be useful and empower anybody in this event, you're happy to approach me. Ruth has said that she will put out my email. Please feel free to talk to me, please feel free to email me, and I'm happy to support in whatever way I can. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
That was amazing. That was incredibly powerful and inspirational, but also it was really practical. Everything that you said, everything that you spoke to was about what people can actually do themselves. It's not pie in the sky. It's about how we can make a difference as an individual and also looking to what the organisations can do as well. So thank you for that. I'm really mindful of time. We can probably take one quick question if there is one from the audience before I hand back over to Jusha. Do we have any questions or comments or reflections from colleagues in this meeting? No, it's all done.
Rosalind, I'd like to ask one. My jaw dropped when you were talking right back from the beginning about your aspirations. You know, you wanted to be a sister, and then you wanted to diversify and become a specialist, and you know, all of these ambitions that you set yourself. And yeah, it made me feel like, yeah, I don't think I do that very well. I don't think I sort of just tend to plod and drift, and you're so inspiring because you are so focused, and that's something that I've really taken away from that. And I just wondered whether you'd ever set a goal in terms of your career and not actually been able to achieve it.
The reason for not achieving my goal was only because I did not understand myself, which is why I projected within my presentation today that it is so important to understand yourself and not look at somebody else and think that that person is in a position where I would like to have it. So I'm being quite honest here. I have seen some of my friends who become matrons and go another way. And I thought, why can't I approach that? Because I have all those skills which I had bagged before I had come into this country, because I was a head nurse in ICU in Saudi Arabia. So that's what I would say. If I started to understand myself well, then I knew which direction I was going. And you start to, once you do that, you start to actually listen to what others say. There are a lot of people who came to me and said, you can speak well, Rose, you're able to actually teach well. When you explain, I understand things better. As an ICU nurse, I used to explain to the junior member of staff, the ABG, and related to the patient care, and they always gave me comments like that. But suddenly it clicked to me later when I realized this is the way I must go. So it's so important to understand who you are and where you fit in with all of these things that are around you. There's so many opportunities. People do not know how much opportunities exist. That's why the awareness is important. So the sort of things I have mentioned within I know it was not shared as a presentation, but I can put it in few words if you want and send it out. Those things really matter to you. What I've told you, the 3 C's and these all are my own story, because that's very, very practical. I hope I answered your questions.
You did. Thank you so much. That's really useful to know. We are in the last few minutes of our session, so I am going to say thank you to everybody for being on the call. And I'd really like, just a reminder that if people can put in the chat box their email address, if you haven't already joined by your email address, or a contact, so we can send the slides out to you afterwards, and all the links to the various support functions that we've discussed. That'd be really great. And I want to hand over, thank you all the speakers, all the participants, you've all been fabulous. I want to hand over to Ruby for our closing comments. I think you should do that, Ruby.
Oh my goodness, this is such a success webinar. Thank you everyone for all your contributions, for coming to here, for all the participants. I know some of you are doing a night shift tonight, and I really hope that you have gained what you wanted for you to gain this day. So as what Susie said, that we were going to put the resources for you to look at, and it's not only internal resources but also external resources. And please get in touch with Gary. Now that we know that we have funds, we got money to spend, please get in touch with your managers, our manager, and make that conversation that's needed. We hope that we have empowered you on this webinar. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruby, for those closing words. That's really great. So I do want to thank everyone for their time today, for Ruth, Rosalind, Ruby, Shinto, Paul, Sharla, and Gary, who's left the call now. And most importantly, it would have been pointless if you hadn't have joined us. And so you've made the difference today, and I hope that you will encourage others by what you've heard. And please do pick up. One of the things that's been really clear all the way through is connect with each other, let's use each other, let's support each other, because we're much stronger together. And that's how we're going to make a difference. That's how we can turn corners and change the tide for yourselves. And if you've gone through interviews and you need some encouragement and some coaching, then get in touch. Let's see what we can do, and to support one another in those ways. Any of the guest speakers, have you got any final thoughts, comments that you would want to pass on to anyone in our last minute?
I just wanted to say a huge thank you. I learned, as I said, in the chat box. I learned a lot today. So we need to, thank you very much for organizing that. We need to do more of these events.
I just want to say final point that you have my email address. Those people who are interested in research, please do approach me. Even if it is that you don't know anything about it, I'm happy to actually, I'm not here to say that I know everything about research. That should actually give you some kind of reassurance. And we can join it, but I have published and it's been published in very good journals. So I just want to give you that assurance. And as well as if you'd like me to come and speak to anyone who's struggling in a ward and saying that I'm no good, I'm not something properly, and you want to talk to me, get in touch with me. I'm happy to do even one-to-one speak to anyone. Thank you.
That's such a generous offer, Rosalind. I'm not sure whether you're going to be able to cope with. You might be inundated.
No, that is fine. We have been doing that, and my research has made it so clear to me that there was a reason why I picked up the topic. When you understand something to that depth, you can see the need.
Yeah.
And you just feel there's not enough help for the need.
That's
so
right.
I'm happy to, yes, and I will make time. We all can make time if we really want to. That's my approach.
Thank you. Thank you, Rosalind. Thank you, Katrina. You've been amazing. Thank you. Ro, I hope you get Rosalind's email.
Yeah, Rosalind's email address in the chat, so you'll have to scroll back to see that. And thank you, everyone. I really enjoyed being here. Keep flourishing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
you don't need to worry about all the email addresses in the chat box, and because what we will do is send out Rosalind's details with, so as long as you put in the chat box your contact details, we should be able to get this information out to you so that you can continue to grow and learn for your future. So thank you very much, everyone. It's been an absolute delight. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.